Hey, good morning, everyone. All right, so previous to this, we have started with understanding the drawbacks of the arrays so that we could move on towards collection. We were having a discussion like arrays follows a static memory allocation. That means whenever you are using an array, you are defining an array, you also have to mention the size of the array at the time of declaration itself. If you won't give a size of an array, the runtime engine, Apex runtime engine, the compiler is going to prompt you with the errors. So the array size must be defined in the beginning itself, and that cannot be changed. Arrays cannot be grow, array cannot be shrink. So with this, there are so many drawbacks. With the static memory allocation, there are so many drawbacks that if you would require a lesser amount of memory, let's say although you have defined an array of storing 100 integers in the beginning, because maybe you were not sure at that time. So you have defined an array with, let's say, 100 of integers. But later on in the program, you realize that we would only require to store 50 of them. But you cannot, uh, you cannot go back and change that size. You can do this in the program, but you cannot do this in the runtime. So whenever this program is going to be getting executed, the memory is being reserved for all 100. The memory is being reserved for all 100. And we have used only 50 out of them. That means the rest of the memory which has been allotted for the 50 integers is totally waste. And this memory is not going to be given to anyone else in the program. So that is something which have a drawback. And there are a few more simple things like array always have a similar kind of data elements. You cannot have, you cannot combine, you cannot combine different data types. Like you cannot have an array where you can store some of the values as integers, some of the values as string, some of the values as data, or any other data type. It must always have a similar type of data element. So whenever we are storing a real-time data, which consists of so many different forms of records, we cannot use an array. So considering all these drawbacks, we have a separate thing called collections. We have a separate thing called collections. So collections are, I mean, every drawback of array is being oversized with collection, is being oversized with collections. So that means the collections, first of all, the collection, it follows a pattern called as dynamic memory allocation. They can store similar as well as dissimilar. That means they can have both homogeneous and heterogeneous values. You can store, if you want, you can store similar kind of element inside collections. If you want, you can store this similar type of elements as well. You can have a collection with all integers. You can have a collection with all strings. Even though you can have a collection with some of the values as string, some of the values as date, some of the values as ID, some of the values as integer, boolean, whatever you. So, collection allows you to store elements of similar as well as dissimilar data types, homogeneous as well as heterogeneous. And then it follows a pattern of memory allocation called as dynamic memory allocation. That means whenever you define a collection, whenever you define a collection, in the program, we're going to understand how we can define. There are syntax. There are syntaxes by which you have to create a collection. You have to define a collection. So whenever you define a collection, the memory doesn't get allotted at that moment. It doesn't get reserved at that moment. As and when you grow in the program, if you insert the values in the collection, for example, you define a collection. You define a collection. All right. So compiler would not going to reserve any amount of memory. If this is a total amount of memory, let's say, if this is a total runtime memory, compiler would not going to reserve any portion of this during the declaration of collection. Rather, when you start inserting the elements, when you start inserting the elements inside collection, it would allot the memory. This is, let's say, this is first element. Let's say this is second element. Let's say this is third element. As and when you would you would insert the element inside a collection. Memory is getting allotted for that particular record. And I mean, see, there is no, first of all, reserved amount of memory that like arrays in the beginning itself have. If you have defined an array, you have to mention the size at that moment itself. In the collection, this is not here. This is not something like collection follows. Collection doesn't follow this pattern. That means the memory is not going to be allotted in the beginning. Rather, it would be allotted dynamically. It would be allotted dynamically during runtime. This means, as and when you would insert an element, the memory is going to be allotted for that. Now, what happens if you would remove the element? It would also get removed. So, this allocation and disallocations of memory, this allotment and removing of the memory is done dynamically. So, when you insert, memory is allotted. When you delete, the memories get freed. So, this is something called as a dynamic memory allocation. This is something called as a dynamic memory allocation. So, collections have so many advantages. So, what we do in the real time, we usually don't use arrays. And I'll tell you one more thing which is very important. In the real time, even though if I wanted to store, let's say, the values of similar data elements, similar data types, even though, for example, if I have a requirement where I wanted to store 100 integers, I'm not going to make a use of arrays, because array suffers with so many of limitations. So even though if I have a requirement in programming where I wanted to store the elements, multiple elements of similar data types, I'm going to use collections instead of array. So array is used, but very rarely. Understand? Because array suffers with lots of drawbacks, lots of discrepancies are there. So now there's one more point. I mean, apart from this dynamic memory allocations, apart from the collections of heterogeneous and homogeneous, there's one another important. There's one another important. See, and this you have to understand because you are a developer, you are a programmer, you are a software engineer. This you have to understand. This you have to understand. Array are actually data types. Like you have integer, primitive, like, isn't it? You have S object. In the same way, array is also a data type. Array is also a data type, but with some certain more enhancement into that. With certain more enhancement. So I could say that it's an enhanced data type. It's a specialized data type, but it's a data type. Array is what? It's a data type. Collection exactly is not a data type. Internally, see, there are three types of collection: list collection, set collection, and map collection. List collection, set collection, and map collection. We are going to understand the properties of each one of them. And at the end of this, I would also ask you to create a differences. Like, you can start preparing that table from the day one itself. I would ask you to create a comparative study. A comparative study. Like we could have a first column. We could have a first column, maybe like parameter. You could draw this schema. And then we could have a second parameter like list collection. Could have set collection and then map collection. So this is what I wanted. You could have this schema right now. You could build up, and as and when you start understanding, you can write down those points over here. So we have to create every one of you have to create a table like this, your notes, where we will going to write down not exactly difference, but a comparative study between all three collections. So we will have like over here we will have like parameter. Then we will have, let's say, a list collection. And then we will have, let's say, a set collection. Let's say at last we will have map collection. And then you're going to write down the points. The parameter would be something. Based on that, parameter, we're going to write down some points related to list, set, and map. So create a table like this with this kind of schema. Create a table like this, and then gradually, as and when we'll study, you start writing points into that. So, anyways, there are three different types of collection: list, and then set, and then map. See, internally, these all collection are the classes. They are the standard classes. Like you have a class called as system.debug, right? There are so many standard classes and that are present inside metadata. We don't have a direct visibility over there, but we can use them. We can use the methods of those standard classes, but we don't have any direct visibility. We cannot go inside and see the code of that. I have told you one thing, even though if you are learning a coding, I've told you this, but remember where we are, what is our position. We are at the top of this. We are at the top. We are doing this coding. You are a user. You are standing over here. You are coding whatever the coding you are doing. This is what is the code you are doing. But this is not directly interacting with your system. This have if for example, if this is your Apex runtime engine, first of all, it is present not in your computer. It is present inside the host.com platform. Even though if you are interacting with that, you are interacting it with through a metadata. So your code is over here. It first of all, it goes to metadata, and then with the metadata directly interacts with the runtime engine. So we are at the uppermost level. We are at the uppermost level. So even though we are doing the coding, we are not doing a direct coding. We are not directly interacting with anything. So that is the reasons there are so many things in the Apex programming which are ready-madely available to you. There are so many methods which are already there, and you just have to understand how I can use them. How I can use them inside my program. So internally, internally, all three collections, list, set, and map, they are not data types. They are classes. They are classes. And these classes have a direct interaction with database.com. They have a direct interaction with database.com. So when I'm saying that these are the classes, list collection internally is a class, set is a class, map is a class. Okay. Can any one of you please tell me one thing, considering I'm giving you this command to unmute yourself? Now think about this and tell me one thing. We have learned, see, in the object-oriented principles, when I was describing you that the Apex is completely an object-oriented language. And there is one principle, just let me go back to that. What's the name of that principle? Before I've started with the classes, we have learned that Apex is completely a cloud-based object-oriented language, and it follows all of the principles. Yeah. Can any one of you please tell me when I was saying encapsulation? So inheritance. Yes. So when I was saying encapsulation, what does it actually means?
we
Do you?
combine
Mm-hmm.
we combine the data along with the methods.
Exactly. So we combine the data along with the methods. All right. Let me ask you one more thing. Let me ask you one. So we have defined the classes and everything. All right. Let's consider this is a class. This is a custom class. We created the class called as customer details. Now inside in this class, you have all these members. So like there's a variable. These all are the variables, isn't it? Some of them are like integer variable. These two are the integer variables. Some of them are string variables. Some of them are decimal variables. Whatever it is. You tell me one thing. If I wanted to access any member any member of a class, if I wanted to access any member of a class, now members could be either the variables what you have defined inside the class. If you have defined any variable, that is a member. Even though if you have any method, that method is also a member of a class. So how to use that? How we can access the members of the classes? Yes, anyone?
So we can use a class name dot uh, variable what we have defined.
But that is a technique. In
Yeah.
general, what you will going to if there is a name for this. If I wanted to access a member, what should I do? First of all, what your technique is absolutely right, but that technique is having a name.
Creating object.
Exactly. Who was this? Shadab. Got it. See, guys, the answer is over here itself. That's why I mean I stopped scrolling. I wanted you to see the answer and let me know. So answer was here only. Whenever you wanted to access any member of a class, now listen this and please do not forget. These are some of the basic principles. How can you assume yourself to do the serious programming when you even don't know the basic things, right? So although these seems to be the very basic thing, but this is very important. So whenever you wanted to access any member of a class, if a class is having certain members could be the variables, members could be the variables that you have defined. Member could also be the methods. Okay. So if I wanted to access any member of a class, I first of all would have to create an object of a class. And by that object only you could access the member. Now how to create that was like, you were telling class name, object name. That, okay, that was technical thing. But in a theoretical way, we have to answer like, the members could be only accessed. Members could only be accessed. Let me scroll down. The members of a class the members of the class could be accessed by creating the object. So when I am saying that list, set, and map, these are classes. These are classes. They must have methods. They must have methods. And yes, that is what we have to learn. That is what we have to learn. You would be going to learn the methods of every collection. Why collection have method? Array doesn't have any method. If I wanted to insert the element inside the array, or if I wanted to access the element which are already present inside the array, I don't have any method for that. I don't have any method for that. What I have to do, I have to use a loop, any loop, for, while, do while, enhance, for loop. You can use any one of them, but that is the only technique. Let's consider if you wanted to insert the element inside an array. If you wanted to insert the element, either is you can follow the index position, array of 0, array of 1, array of 1. That is okay. Or you can have this index number by the loop, for loop. Now this was about inserting the element. Now if I wanted to retrieve the element, if I wanted to fetch the element, get the element, remove the element, I'll have to do it by the loop. So there is no method for that. There were no methods. But see, your collection, they are very flexible. They are very flexible. They are very flexible. Every collection, list, set, map, they have methods. They have methods for every operation, whatever you can perform with them. If you wanted to insert something inside list, set, or map, if you wanted to insert an element, multiple element, single element, whatever it was, I mean, you just wanted to perform the insertion operation inside collection, we have a method for that. There's a ready-made method. You just have to learn, I'm telling you. That is what is the beauty of Apex programming. When I say this in the beginning, people usually thought कि मैं शायद कुछ आपको क्या बोलते हैं उसको? I'm not getting the word for that. But people won't visualize that in the beginning when I say 50% of Apex is already there. You just have to learn 50% of the portion. 50% of the things are already built up for you. Just know how to understand that. हाँ, आप प्रोग्रामिंग कर रहे हो तो you obviously will have to build up your own logic. For that, you just have to improve ourselves for next 50% portion. तो उस वक्त में भी लोग विजुलाइज नहीं करते हैं, but as and when you start this and gradually you do the programming, you would realize this by yourself. तो जो भी ऑपरेशंस हम कलेक्शंस के साथ कर सकते हैं, जैसे हम उसमें डेटा इंसर्ट कर सकते हैं, डेटा निकाल सकते हैं, रिट्रीव कर सकते हैं, और भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. This is not just about inserting and retrieving the data. There are so many other operations as well, which cannot be done with the elements inside array. And if you wanted to done it, you have to build up your own logic for that. सिंपल मैं बताऊं, अगर दो अरेज हैं अपने पास में, मान के चलो, एक अरे ये है, इसमें कुछ एलिमेंट्स हैं इंटीजर के 10 एलिमेंट, ये दूसरा अरे है. ठीक है, हमको एक एक एलिमेंट कंपेयर करना है, यहाँ के और यहाँ के, एंड वी हैव टू फाइंड इट आउट कि वेदर दीज टू अरेज आर इक्वल और नॉट इक्वल. इसके लिए कोड करना पड़ेगा, कोडिंग करना पड़ेगा. we'll have to fetch element, the first element and the first position, first index position, उसको कहीं रखोगे आप किसी वेरिएबल में. then you will fetch out this second array में से जो first element, and then you would compare the first element of this equals to first element of this or not. If this is okay, you branch yourself to the next position here also, and you will repeat the process till the last. So you'll have to do this. ये C programming में बहुत किया है हमने. C programming, C++ programming, procedure oriented. ये इसी टाइप के एग्जांपल्स रहा करते थे यार उस वक्त. प्रोग्रामिंग मतलब क्या होती थी तब, ऐसे ही कुछ होता था. But now with collection, this everything is set up, and you just have to understand what are the different kinds of methods. That means whatever could be performed with list, set, and map. So everything is there. This is a class, and class have already made methods. You just have to understand them. All right. चलो, so start करते हैं. सबसे पहला list collection. Now, जिस टेबल के बारे में मैंने आपसे बताया, टेबल सभी लोग बता दीजिए थोड़ा सा रफ में, और बाद में फेयर करें आराम से. पहला आपका पैरामीटर में पहला पॉइंट रहेगा insertion order. This parameter would be insertion order. Insertion order. Parameter would be insertion order. Now list is an ordered collection. In the column of list, you can write down it's an ordered collection. List is an ordered collection. Your parameter is insertion order. Your parameter is the insertion order. If elements are getting inserted into this collection, what order they follow? What is the mechanism? What is the mechanism? So that mechanism, that order is an ordered collection. In the set, if you want, you can write out unordered collection. For now, I'm going to explain this later, although. So list is an ordered collection, whereas set is an unordered collection. Map के लिए अभी कुछ मत लिखो. Map is a complete different portion. We're going to understand. We're going to understand that as well. List is an ordered collection. Set, although, is an unordered collection. We're going to see the differences. What does it mean by the ordered? Ordered collection. Okay, let's understand that. Let's understand that. See, एक चीज और, please go with all this theoretical thing. This is for you, not for me. Acha, you don't have to give any exam. Understand? I'm asking you to read theory, not to give any exam. But this is important for if you are learning something, it must be backed up with certain thesis, certain theoretical things. All right, so go with all that. Never skip this portion. These are very important things. But I usually, I don't go line by line. These notes are not for me. These are meant for you. Anyways, what does it mean by ordered? Let's understand. Let's understand. Like your arrays, whenever you create an array, okay, whenever you create an array, I told you, if you have this array, and let's say this array is capable to store 4 elements of integer. All right, the name of array is A. The name of array is A. ARR, something like that. So this position will be A of 0. This position will be A of 1. And this position will be A of 2. And the last would be A of 3. Now, what is this 0, 1, 2, 3 is called as? Yes. What these numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, they have a technical name. What is them? Yes. Yes.
Addresses.
No. Addresses in terms of memory is good. I'm expecting something else. Yes, Shubham, you're trying to say something. हमारी आवाज नहीं आ रही है मुझको.
Size of
Size, no, 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 absolutely not. Yes, Tushar.
bits.
Bits, no, isn't. No, no, no. How you guys are? I guess you are overcooking this. Hmm. All right. The common announcement: whoever give me the answer would get a dairy milk of 10 rupees. नहीं? अरे, this is called as index position. कहाँ घूम रहे हो तुम लोग? Index positions. This individual position where the element is getting stored inside an array is called as index position. So 0, 1, 2, 3 are what? They are index positions. Now, in the same way, list also have index positions. List also have index position. But the difference is that when you create an array, you define entire size of that array. The entire size of an array. Yeah, I am going to store 10 elements, 100 elements into this. In case of your collection, we don't define any size. We just define the collection. How to define? We're going to understand. See the syntax as well. अभी बाद में जाएंगे उसके ऊपर. पहले ये देखो कि क्या है. So I created a collection, a list collection, and then I start inserting the elements into that. When I start inserting the element, it would start growing. It would start expanding. It would start attaching the new memory locations into it. So on the first position, on the first index position, and by the way, every index position always starts with 0. Don't ask me why. I'm not a creator of this. This is a defined phenomenon and we'll have to understand in the same way. So every index position, whether it's an array or list collection, the index position always starts with 0. So in the first position, I inserted an element called the apex. Apex. Let's say this is a collection of string element, strings, all strings. Now, after inserting apex, I have another string called welcome. So that goes after 0. After 0, it comes 1. Then India, and then Hyderabad, and once again Hyderabad. So they are being inserted. They all of them are being inserted with the index position. With an index position. Now, maintaining this index position is something called as maintaining the order of insertion. Maintaining the order of insertion. The first element that comes, I want it to be get inserted. I am apex. I want it to be get inserted. All right. You're going to get the first position. First position always starts with index 0. Second come welcome. The welcome will going to be get inserted after apex. Third come India. India is going to be get inserted after apex, welcome, and after apex and welcome. Sorry. Then comes Hyderabad. It's going to be inserted after all 3 elements. Then comes once again comes Hyderabad. All right. So it would going to be appended. So every new element is always appended, is always inserted in the last position. In the last position. Or last plus 1, whatever you wanted. If last considered to be 2, then 2 plus 1 would give you 3. If the last element is 3, then 3 plus 1 give you the 4. All right. So every new element is always appended in the last or last plus 1, whatever you consider this. And it have a numbering, it have an order. So this is why the list collection is said to be an ordered collection. It maintains the order of insertion. It maintains the sequence in which the element have been inserted inside the collection. It maintains that. This is the first thing. This is the first thing. Now you could have a second parameter. Inside in your table, the first point in the parameter was insertion order, isn't it? So list is an ordered collection. Set is unordered. We're going to see that later on. You could have second point. Element duplicacy. In the parameter, you could have second point, element duplicacy. Inside in list collection, duplicacy is allowed. So if there is already an element called Hyderabad, you try to insert once again. You can try this as many number of the times you want. It's going to always going to be have a new element. So if there is an Hyderabad, there can be multiple Hyderabad's. No problem. The same element could be duplicated multiple positions. List allows to have duplicated elements. So if your parameter is duplicated elements, you can write down the statement in the list column. List collection allows to have duplicated elements. Set doesn't do that. We're going to see. List allows to have duplicated elements. All right. So let's move on with the syntax. If I wanted to create an array, how the syntax goes, you first of all would have to write down data type. In that case also, for example, integer and this symbol, array. Then give the name of the array. Give the name of the array, like array name equals to new. Once again, integer. And here you have to mention the size, 10 integers. So inside in this array, I'm going to store 10 integers. This is how we define an array. This is how we define an array. Right? This is how we define an array. Now, similarly, if I wanted to create a collection, list collection. List collection, how can I create that? Let's understand the syntax. All of these three collections have a keyword. For list, there is a keyword called list, set, set, map, map. Okay. What is a keyword, by the way? What is a keyword? Yes, when I say keyword, what does it mean? What is a keyword in programming? What does it mean by a keyword? In programming, what does it mean by a keyword? Come on.
That word we cannot use for declaration, variable declaration. That is set.
Partially true. Partially true. Could anyone elaborate? See, Ruchira has given almost 50% of the answer. Can anyone elaborate this? We're going to get 100% answer. Yes, come on. Are you sleeping? Guys, I would ask everyone to on their video camera. All right. You're going to have this embarrassment. No one? Keywords are the defined words. For every programming language, there are certain reserved words. There are certain words which you cannot be used for any another purpose. They are having a known definition to compiler. You cannot use them for any other purpose. You cannot override them. You cannot override them, right? So list and then give a data type. Then give a data type. List and then data type. Now see, when I say data type, when I say a data type, understand this. Data type could be what? Data type could be primitive. Data type could also be the S object, isn't it? Now, in the primitive itself, you have all types of data, all fundamentals data, integer, ID, date. Even you have Salesforce object over here as well, object. So Salesforce object is something else. S object is something different. You're going to use this, don't worry. You'll come to know where to use this. In the batch programming, it would be the first time where you would use S object. And then you will going to use it in few more examples. So in the primitive also we have as Salesforce object. Like, see, I can define a list. Let me complete with this first of all. Okay, so that's the list and then data type that give the name of the collection, whatever user defined name. Again, new keyword, फिर से list collection, whatever the data type, ये इसको copy करके आप simple यहाँ पे paste कर दो. and have this opening and closing round bracket. This is something called as a default constructor. This is something called as a default constructor. Okay, shallow. So this is the way we would going to create the collections. And now, when I say data type, let's try to understand the few of the examples over. Like if you are creating a collection wherein you wanted to store all integers only, then you would define list of integers. Any name, new list of integers, opening and a closing, a default constructor. If you wanted to store all string values, then you'll define list of string. Give any name for that. A new list of string, default constructor. If you wanted to store all IDs, list of ID. So these were some of the example of primitive data type. Now I am extending this. Again primitive, but little bit different. For example, I wanted to store an account record, multiple account record, not just one. If I'll take you to the Salesforce, let's say these all are the account records, isn't it? These all are the account records, all accounts. How many of records are there? There are 138 records. I wanted to store them, 10 out of them, 100 out of them. Now, if I would open any one of them, if I would open any one of them, now these records typically have so much different data. Like if I would understand rating is a pick list, I guess, yes. So that is a string data type. If I would say, for example, annual revenue is something a decimal value. If I would say maybe like SLA expiration date, now that's a date value, right? That's a date value. This record have an ID value. This record has an ID. So when if you would be storing any of the object record, for example, opportunity, you're storing one opportunity record, right? You're storing one opportunity record, for example. You're storing one opportunity record. Now this opportunity record would have multiple elements of different kinds of data. And that's clearly an example. Of heterogeneous values. Heterogeneous combination of multiple data of different data types. So even you can define list of object, list of account, list of case, list of hiring manager, list of position, list of user object. So that is also allowed. By the way. You can, as a data type, you can have basic primitive data type or Salesforce object. Even S object also. List of S object is also allowed. But where to use is a different thing. And don't mix up yourself with list of Salesforce object and S object. That's are two different things. All right. So don't mix up yourself. S object and these is not same. A list of account and list of S object is not same. Understand what is the difference? I would be telling you more when this comes. This comes in front of you. I'm going to explain it. There would be a separate time of discussion for this, not now. So when we wanted to store, so you cannot have arrays of account. No, you cannot have. Why? Because array is only capable to store similar elements. You could obviously have array of integer, array of string, array of ID, array of date. Yes. List could also have. I told you, collections have the capability. Collection have this capability that they could store similar elements, even dissimilar elements. You could define list of integers, that is perfect. You could also define list of account, heterogeneous. So this is how, like, we're going to define everything. And a list of list is also allowed. List of list is also allowed. So for example, you have defined a list of, let's say, list of integer. List of integer. You could also have a list of list and then again list of lists, and you can go up to 5 labels. This is very rare, though. This is just a kind of general knowledge. All right. Up to two label, up to two label, up to two label, you would be going to use in something called as SOSL, Salesforce Object Search Language. Salesforce Object Search Language. We have two different forms of query: SOQL, Salesforce Object Query Language, and SOSL, Salesforce Object Search Language. So in the SOSL, we have list of list, list of list, this list of list we have in SOSL. But otherwise, you can even concatenate this up to 5 labels, right? So this is just rare, very rare, but we can have this. Usually, nobody like the complexities in programming. I'm telling you this. Nobody likes this. It could be a very rare situation where we go with the nesting of all this. But otherwise, we always try to keep it simple. We always try to keep it simple, right? Anyways, what is the time? 8:20. I have 10 minutes more. All right. ठीक है, मैं ले लेता हूँ and programming में कर लेता. Example. See, now I was talking about this. The collections have methods, right? List have methods. Set also have method. Map also have methods. So whenever you wanted to perform anything with them, there are ready-made methods. You just don't have to introduce anything. You don't have to innovate anything from your end. There is already everything is available. You just need to understand how can you use that. Okay, so if I wanted to insert an element, जैसे apex insert किया, India insert किया, how could I insert the element? So you have a method called as add with element name. You give the element, it's going to be appended in the last. Now there is one more add along with the index position. For example, if you particularly wanted an element to be get inserted on a certain defined position, I wanted to insert US on index position 1 or 2 or 3. All right. See, if you would not give any index position, you just give the element. You just give the element. It is automatically going to be appended in the last plus one. In last plus one. If you won't give any index position. But list collection also give you a facility that you could have add. There are two, forms, not three. And that is what is a polymorphism, by the way. Poly means multiple. Morphism means form. A single method name could be used in different forms. So add could have two forms. The name is add, but it could have based on signatures, based on parameters. Parameters are called as signatures. Parameters along with return type is called as signature. Not just parameter. Parameter along with the return type is called as signature. Anyways, so based on parameters, compiler is going to differentiate. So if a simple add would come along with the element name, the element is going to be added last plus one. But if you have given any index position along with the element name, it's going to be inserted in that position. So if I have given add, and you have to give it like along with the name of the collection, your collection name dot method name. I forgot to mention, but it's always be collection name. See, I have defined a collection list of string, LST elements, new list of string and default constructor. So this LST element becomes the collection name, by the way. I forgot to mention, sorry for this. Anyways, so collection name dot method name, collection name dot method name every time. So in this add, I have given the index position 1. So previously on the first position, it was India. Now on the first position, it would be USA. So what would happen to India? Are the India is going to overrate? India is going to lose? No. It would be, I mean, what to say? बाजू में सरक जाता है. It would be, it is shifted in the one position right. It would going to be shifted one position right. Every element would going to be shifted one position right, not just one. तो उसकी जगह पे ये आ जाता है, तो दिस इज ऑल्सो अलाउड. तो add could have two different flavors. Add, just give the element, add index position along with the element. All right, so add could have two different forms. Then add all is a separate method. Add all is used to copy the whole data of a separate element, of a separate collection. For example, if there is an array or there is another list collection which is having 100 elements, and you wanted to copy and paste it inside the newly created collection. So you can have at all. So for example, I have defined a string array with a name called country names. And these were the values inside that. US, Australia and all. So there was already an array called as country name. There was already an array called as country name. This array was having all these values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. And then I have created like, LST elements naam ka ek collection, and I have given add all method. Add all from where? This name. So whatever the element it would have, everyone is going to be copied inside this आपका जो LST elements है. So it is simply taking data from another collection, nothing else. ठीक है? Then Boolean empty is empty. Boolean is return type. Is empty is the method. Acha, how many different forms of methods are there? Yes. How many different forms of methods are there? Someone name was flashed and gone. Shubham, I guess. Yes. Shubham, you are saying something I'm not getting. You can use chat as well if you wanted to answer. You are not.
Parameterized and non-parameterized.
Oh, that is okay. I accept. But I was expecting something else. Yes, how many different forms of methods are there?
Procedures and functions.
Exactly. Very good, Snare. There are procedures and the function on the top level. All right. What is the difference between a function and a procedure? Mon, what is the difference between a function and a procedure? What is the difference between a function and a procedure? What is the meaning to take so many efforts while teaching if you would start forgetting things in just 1 month span? All right. आप बोलो मुझे कि सर तुमने 1 महीना पहले पढ़ाया था, हमको कहाँ से याद रहे? ठीक है यार, तो फिर कैसा करोगे? अभी तुम लोग को इंटरव्यूज देने, इतना सारा पढ़ना, यू हैव टू रिवाइज कंप्लीट एडमिन, उसके बाद डेवलपमेंट होगा, इंटीग्रेशन होगा, डिप्लॉयमेंट होगा, लाइटनिंग होगा, इतना सारा पढ़ना है हमको बॉस. पूरा 1 साल की पढ़ाई है ये. व्हाट डू यू थिंक सेल्सफोर्स इज इजी? है 2 महीने 3 महीने में लोग पढ़ा रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. खत्म कर दें सारी चीज, उसके बाद तुम्हारा क्या हो रहा है कोई नहीं आके देख रहा तुमको. तुम्हारा सर्टिफिकेशन हुआ क्या, तुम्हारा प्लेसमेंट हुआ क्या? हम ही लोग पागल है, मैं बता रहा हूँ. विंग्स क्लाउड फोर्स वाले पूरे पागल हैं जो तुम्हारे पीछे इतनी मेहनत करते हैं, तुम्हारा इंग्लिश इंप्रूव करते हैं, तुम्हारा कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ाते हैं, मॉक इंटरव्यूज लेते हैं, अपना समय निकालते हैं, अपना फैमिली टाइम तुमको देते हैं, और तुम लोग भूल जाते हो सब कुछ. Functions always returns you something, whereas procedure have return type as void. Whenever a procedure is called, it doesn't return anything to the calling environment, and that's why the return type is void. Whereas for functions always return something to the calling environment. So whenever in front of any method, I hope this is, whenever there is a kachori in front, whenever there is an opening and a closing round bracket in any name, that's a method. Now, if you see something in return that this method is returning a Boolean value, this method is returning an integer value, this method is not returning anything, that's why there is nothing in front of that. This method is not returning anything, this method is returning a Boolean value, this method is returning an integer value, this method does not return anything. Whenever a method does not return anything, that method is procedure. When the method returns something, when the method returns something, that's a function. That's a function. I don't expect you to remember. See, I'm once again I'm saying this. This is not going to be asked in interview. Nobody has a time to ask all those basic things. No one would ask you. No one would ask you this in interview. But that doesn't mean you have this liberty to forget these things. If I feel this is not important, why should I taught it? These are important for your fundamentals. Understand? Anyways, we shall continue with the same discussion by tomorrow, because I don't think this is going to be get completed by today. I'm going to continue with the same discussion by tomorrow. So, thank you so much for joining, everyone. Have a good day.